Hey, thanks for joining us here on the Peet and Reet Show. And of course, you all know that wherever you're watching in the world,
yes,
that we're in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side of the border. Big entertainment center. Also, a great place where hockey players.
Of course, a lot of great players.
Yeah, and got in, went and played in World Championships and Team Canada and the
Stanley
NHL.
Cups.
Yeah. And this next guy was no exception to being a great hockey player, and they loved him when he played for the Thunder back in, I believe, the end of the 80s, the beginning of the 90s, and he got drafted by the Buffalo Sabres, 14th overall.
Nice.
What a
honor.
Yeah, what a powerhouse this guy was when he played hockey. Brad May, thanks for joining us. Were you going to say something else?
You know what? I was just going to say I loved when because he was a tough guy too.
Yeah.
I love that. Sorry, if you're not tough in hockey, you shouldn't be playing the game.
I agree, but that's all changing now.
I know, right?
So. Hi, Brad. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I love that compliment, Rita. I had a wonderful experience playing hockey. It's got my start in Niagara Falls, like you guys were just talking about with the Thunder. I guess I got there when I was 16, turning 17, and then had really fortunate I was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres in 1990. So spent a large portion. It used to be half my life in the Niagara Peninsula. Now it's 1/4. So I guess that means that we're all getting older.
Hey, stop reminding us.
Yeah,
it's happening a lot faster. So, I mean, I see a palm tree in the background there. What's going on with that? Where are you?
Well, hockey, it's been such a great experience. One of the teams I played with in the NHL was the Phoenix Coyotes, and my family, we've had a condo down in Scottsdale for about 15 years, actually a little longer than that, and just spending a little bit of time here in 100-degree heat. We dropped our daughter off in the University of Arizona, where she's going to school for the first time, university. So really excited. A little nervous, obviously, last weekend dropping her off, but spending time here, it's a little hot, but wonderful place. As you can see, the palm trees, and golf around here is abundant. It's amazing, and
I bet it is.
That's one of my loves.
Awesome. I bet it's a lot warmer there than Vancouver was.
Well, for certain, but Vancouver still to this day, for me anyways, is the most beautiful city I've lived in. I grew up in north of Toronto, obviously lived in Niagara Falls, and I played around Denver, Colorado. We lived, and currently we actually have been living in Laguna Beach, California, where I played for the Anaheim Ducks. But Vancouver's a special city. Obviously, when the weather's nice, when the rain sets in, it's not so nice though.
Well, The Rock just did something on Facebook, right, where he was in Vancouver, talking about, not always getting what you want, but it's probably the thing that you should have gotten in the first place. He was saying Vancouver. That's the only place probably in Canada I haven't been. No, and my cousin's a chiropractor out there. He's a sports chiropractor, right, who traveled with Team Canada, and I haven't even had a chance to get out there. So now I have to.
Yeah,
exactly. I have to get out there. So golf and hockey.
Just for you, Vancouver is, it's a jewel in Canada. Obviously, you got the Pacific Ocean. It comes right in. You got the mountains. I never did it, but you could be skiing, fishing, and swimming in the same day, playing golf too, on that special moment or special time of the year. So Vancouver's a great city. It's small, but it's very expensive, and the traffic stinks.
Well, it does in Toronto too. So
so I got you shoot left, right, in hockey?
Yes.
Which way do you golf?
Left.
You see,
you're the only one who's messed up.
No, I'm totally I used to be a really good golfer, and then I had kids and stopped. But now I bring two sets. I just played golf a week and a half ago, and I bring two sets of clubs because I do not know which way I shoot. I had to think. I played hockey left. I hit a baseball left, but I do golf both ways. So actually, I could bring it over to my right hand when I came in, but I was never a Brad May when I played hockey.
Well, this time of the world right now, 2017, there's nothing wrong with going both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh my!
So now, were you were growing up? You're playing hockey. Where'd you start playing hockey? In a pond somewhere north of Toronto?
Yeah, north of Toronto. Actually, I was a younger brother, 2 years younger than my oldest brother. So we grew up just north of Toronto in a little country town called Goodwood. We lived on a pond, and that's kind of where we got, or I got my start. You know, you come home from school, you'd skate on the pond, but then of course started in a little town called Stouffville, where I got my start playing hockey and learned to skate. Keith Acton, who played in the NHL and has been a coach for a long time, his father actually was my skating coach, I think at 2 or 3 years old, and that's how it all started. And then my parents split up, so of course with a broken family, although it was great, my parents were wonderful through the process. My brother and I and our mom, we went to Markham, so the second half of my childhood was in Markham, where I met my wife, and we've been together for 30-something years and married for 23. And
Well, we're going to hold you there, and we're going to learn more about that when we come back with Brad May.
Yeah, and he's from Goodwood, right? Not that there's
Goodwood.
anything wrong with that. Okay.
Well, he has good wood, like literally hockey stick, okay?
Exactly. All right, back on the show with Brad May in just a minute. Thanks for staying with us here in the Peet and Reet Show. We're talking to Brad May and just getting into where he grew up in Goodwood, which is north of Markham, which is just off to the northwest of Toronto, correct?
Northeast.
Northeast, right. East, west, north, somewhere in there.
Somewhere north of Toronto, around Newmarket area, somewhere.
So you got an older brother who's playing the game. You want to play the game, but are you like going, I want to be an NHL hockey player?
I think you always, in the basement when you're playing, mini hockey as a kid, out on the street playing ball hockey, you always dreamt of scoring that winning goal and playing for that team. My team at that time, by default, everybody in my household had their favorite team, and I was, of course, had to pick something different. So my team was the Boston Bruins.
Yay!
Oh.
Never understood how to. That I'd actually have a chance to make it. Of course, it's a long shot, but always dreamt. And then when I was in high school, grade 8, grade 9, I played actually house league hockey in Markham, if you can believe it. So I actually played on Saturday mornings between 6 and 8 or 6 and 9 in the morning. I didn't play travel hockey for a year and a half. And that's when I was 13 and 14 years old. And then within 4 years of that time, I was a first round draft pick to Buffalo. So I'm not sure if that's possible today, the way the system is, but I was able to be on the ice and skate and learn, but I was able to put my mind to it as well, that, when you get dealt a bad hand, you can either quit or you can kind of grind it out and dig deep and do the best you can. And for me, I had good guidance, good coaches, obviously a great family that was able to inspire me to do more. But that was my story. I was able to get to Niagara Falls. I played junior for 2 years there and was drafted to Buffalo. So I pretty much was a hometown boy being drafted to the Buffalo Sabres. It was pretty cool.
Now, you were 6'1", 210 when you played, right?
I'll tell you what. So I ate myself out of the National Hockey League. I got into the NHL. I was about 198 pounds, 200. Of course, at that time, you try to lie and tell all the scouts that you're 205, 210 because it sounds better. In the books, I was always 6'1". That's only because I was on my tippy toes. But I'm 6 feet tall, 195 to 200 pounds when I started. For my last 7 or 8 years, I was 220 pounds. So I gained about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a year, which happens when you're lifting weights and you're trying to, going from a teenager to a man. But at 220, I had to start trying to lose weight, and I played too long. I was so lucky. I played 19 years, and I retired in 2010. But I retired at 222 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm about 240 today, and I don't feel good about it.
That's why we're only seeing his head.
Yeah.
So now, were you a tough guy when you played in the house league and when you went into travel?
Never. I was just a player, just playing because you love it, and goals and assists, and just trying to help your team win. But I knew when I went, was drafted to the Ontario Hockey League, and I was a ninth pick by the Niagara Falls Thunder. So I wasn't even like that highly touted kid. I knew that I had to do something. So that summer I took Taekwondo all summer, martial arts, learning how to defend yourself, because you're going to go as a 16-year-old and playing against 19 and 20-year-old guys that come back from NHL training camps, and you're getting closer, but it was yet still so far away. I did that for the whole summer in Markham, and I got to Niagara Falls. I ended up being in 54 fights documented, not to mention the exhibition season. It just kind of happened. The first one went really well, kind of got some momentum, and then, of course, I had a coach in Niagara Falls at the time, Bill LaForge, incredible man. He's not around today, but he was a guy that, drew the best out of me anyways, and inspired me to do that. To be honest with you, I've been retired for about 6 or 7 years now, since 2010. The only thing I miss about hockey, I can still play. The only thing I miss is fighting.
I knew you were a tough guy.
No, I just love it. It's like ballet. It's a real art.
It's like ballet.
The movements, everything about it. I mean, there's a dedication to it, but it's not about hurting the other guy that you fight, but there's something about it that's, raw. The emotion, the adrenaline, and I haven't been able to replace that since I retired.
Okay, we're going to hold you there, and we're going to come back with Brad May on the Peet and Reet Show.
Well, you stayed with us, and we're still talking to Brad May, and even talking off camera is probably more fun than talking on camera, because you get some.
We should just let it roll.
Yeah, I got to admit something. There's a problem when we have hockey players on, because I love the game, and it's like I could talk forever about this, and how'd you get there, and how did you do that, and being a tough guy. It's it has to be. I know you love to fight, and obviously you did, because I used to sit up in the press box with one of our good buddies who's no longer with us, who was a great broadcaster, Phil Lester, and watch you. And I remember he said to me, he says, "Pete, you got to come up here and watch this kid one day. You got to come and watch him." I said, okay. So I hopped up there, and I mean, man, it's ballet. And the thing is, you had a goal. And we always tell people this, okay? You got a goal, you got to get tunnel vision, and you got to do whatever you got to do to get to that goal. And you taking Taekwondo and practicing and in practice, because I walked into practice 3 times, and you were doing what you were weak at. You were always working on something, trying to get there, and finally you hit it.
Yeah, you know what? Nobody gets to that destination without help and without guidance, without the right people around. And in that case, so many people don't have that, and maybe they're not as fortunate. I was so lucky. I had great teammates. I think on our first team in Niagara Falls playing junior hockey, the equivalent of 9 first-round draft picks as the NHL's expanded. Guys were picked early in the second round back then. So many good pros and good players and really good people. And, once I got to the NHL, I played 19 years, over 1,000 games. And I'm not saying that to, pat myself on the back. My first roommate was Mike Ramsey, the captain of the Buffalo Sabres. He won a gold medal with the U.S. Olympic team in 1980, the Miracle on Ice. He was able to impart that experience and knowledge onto me, and kind of, really be a big brother. Pat LaFontaine and Dale Howardchuk and others. So many good people around me. Steve Ludzik, a local guy when I first got to Rochester. After our Niagara Falls team got beat out, Ludsey was the captain of Rochester Americans. A wonderful guy. Went on, obviously had a heck of a career as a player, but as a coach as well. So many nice people, but people that actually were able to kind of understand those pressure points and moments in time where you can either sink or swim. You can either quit or you can persevere, and those are all learned behaviors. And I was just fortunate enough that maybe I was a good student, no doubt about it, but I had some good teachers around me.
So was there somebody that you wanted to be growing up, like that, that was already in the NHL? Was there someone that you inspired to be like?
I wanted to be Bon Jovi.
That didn't work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out so well, but
Can you
my
sing?
head's a little bigger than John's. No, you know what? I always wanted to be a player. I don't know how I chose my favorite players, but I kind of gravitated outside of the Wayne Gretzky's and then Mario Lemieux and those players. I really gravitated to Cam Neely, Rick Tocchet, even a little later, same vintage, but Shane Corson, guys that played the game. They were skilled, but they're also tough, and they were able to, in many ways, be a big brother for their teammates. And I kind of admired that. And not to say that you wanted it to be that way, it just kind of happened, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, Cam Neely was a beast. He used to just like really get mad and pick up people and just kind of bounce them off the boards like they were a basketball.
Well, so did Brad.
Yeah. Now, you see, you come naturally with the Bruins, just so you know, because you came to Niagara Falls, and of course, Niagara Falls used to be the direct farm club of the Boston Bruins, right? Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I did. Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Derek Sanderson.
Yeah, we just actually had the Turk on a few weeks ago, and he's doing extremely well and sharing his story and doesn't regret a thing that he did, which I find fantastic. He says, what I learned in my life, I like to teach other people, and I like to teach young people. So he's doing
great inspiration.
Stupendous. Now, if you look back to that era, who is the greatest hockey player that ever played, in your opinion?
I mean, there's one guy, the greatest, obviously, that's Wayne Gretzky. Hands down, nobody's even come close to Wayne Gretzky. His numbers speak for themselves. The records, I think he's still over 60 records that he holds in the National Hockey League. So Wayne Gretzky, now, it's so difficult to compare eras. So you had Doug Harvey and you had Gordie Howe, and then, of course, you had, the Richard brothers and Bobby Orr, who they say, maybe in my dad's vintage, Bobby Orr is the best player that ever played. So difficult to compare eras. For me, playing from 1990 to 2010, so those 2 decades, I played against Mario Lemieux, I played against Wayne Gretzky, and without a doubt, their numbers support anybody that's going to, pick them. The best player I played with and played against was Pavel Datsyuk, who's now back in Russia in the KHL. Pavel Datsyuk, in my opinion, is the best hockey player that's played in the last 30 years, but that's a hard battle for me to win, or argument for me to win, when you're comparing them to so many greats.
So when you, I've got to ask this question. When you were with Phoenix and you were suspended for 20 games, did you think it was too much?
At the time, I'll tell you exactly my feelings. I was in Phoenix at the time, and I got the phone call. I got 20-game suspension. I was devastated. That's a quarter of a hockey season, not to mention, by the way the fines and suspensions are, I lost over $120,000. That was fine. But when I looked at it, just because it's based on salary and stuff, now in saying that, I didn't have to play 20 games to earn it. So I had 2 months, probably the best 2 months of my hockey career. I was in Scottsdale. I would skate every morning with the team. I would leave when they'd start their battle drills, and I'd go play golf. And my kids, I picked them up at school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because they were at preschool or whatever it was. Then I went to Las Vegas for 5 nights while my teammates were playing, and I got to see a world-class boxing fight. Felix Trinidad and Fernando Vargas. It was terrific. 6 knockdowns in the fight. I was able to have my dad and his buddies down for a week golf trip that I participated in, played every day with them. So I said to myself, there's no question the 20 games, the embarrassment of slashing a guy in the face, which, by the way, was a mistake and an accident. There was no intent to injure whatsoever. If I would have taken his eye out in that same play, which I did, he got a couple stitches. You know what? You have to be responsible for your actions. What I'm disappointed about is, from that point going forward, the NHL never upheld that standard of violence, if you will. This was kind of like just a moment in time. I got a 20-game suspension, and then the next guy that did something remotely close got 4 games. So I'm not bitter. I had a great time, spent time with my family, but you got to be accountable for your actions. I was. I didn't complain. If you're out and you do something wrong, you got to pay the piper. And we all know what's right and wrong. And what I did was a mistake, but it was wrong.
Now, the game's changed a lot. And when we talked to Sanderson, in his belief, he said he doesn't like the way the game's changed. He believed that when he played, the players were just as fast, if not some were as faster as the players that play now, that big guys have slowed down the game. Crunching the neutral zone has slowed down the game a whole bunch and sent it into a lot of cycling in the end. And the violence and fighting has been reduced. There's no longer the sheriff in town to make sure things are going well for your good players. And you know what? I have to agree to him to a point.
Well, I would definitely say that creativity in the game, I mean, has never been better. On the high end, the worst hockey player in the NHL today has a great skill set. So there's no comparison to the athlete today to the athlete that's 40 years gone by. However, the creativity that they could play with, there was only one coach. They didn't have video sessions. It wasn't overcoached. They didn't have analytics, or certainly didn't pay attention to them as a player. You won a game 6-5. You didn't, go over it, but with the tape, extensively for hours upon hours. There was a lot more feel back in Derek's day, back when I started as well. And I think we all, as ex-players, we all miss that. But the player today is much better than what we ever were, no question. They're so much better. My only concern is it's faster. The worst hockey player in the game today is faster than probably close to the top guys back then. Skates, technology, training, just strength and conditioning. But the physical element, guys are getting injured. They're making the game so fast. If they changed the rules in a parking lot to park cars and said, listen, you can start now parking cars at 30 miles an hour, how much wreckage would happen before people actually got to the point where they're comfortable parking a car at 30 miles an hour? Hockey's kind of been through that transition over the last 10 years by taking away all the hooking and holding and physical play. It's gotten much faster, but a little more reckless. That has nothing to do with disrespect, but it's just more reckless. And unfortunately, players have been injured, as they always have, but I'm still afraid that there's going to be some big injuries because of the rules that have been implemented. Young children, my kids that are now 20, grew up playing hockey against people with stop signs on their back. The message is terrific, but if those are the habits that you learn to live and play under, the wrong situation, the wrong place in the corner, a guy being, fast and making a mistake, injuries are going to happen, and that's my only fear.
We're going to hold you there and come back with Brad May, and I want to find out a little bit about your family. You talked about your kids.
Yeah, when we come back on the Peet Reet Show, stay with us. And we are talking to Brad May, a former NHL hockey player, broadcaster with the Sabres, with Sportsnet Rogers in Toronto. And you know what? When you start out, and I know, when I played hockey, because I was 6'1", 210, actually 6'1", I was 6'3", I used to always have to fight. And when I fought, I was angry. I wanted to rip their heads off their shoulders. And I know that's the way you were when you were in junior. But when I watch you and watched you in the NHL and then watch clips, when you first got in there, I mean, you could tell you wanted to kill somebody, but it's almost like some of that stuff is, I know you're fighting for real, but it's like you guys are set up, you're going in that night, and you're going to have the fight. How much is it set up?
First of all, for me, they talk about stage fights, or you've heard that phrase. I don't believe in that. It's all about momentum. It's all about energy and timing. Yeah, there was nights, many nights, if not every game I went into, and I actually had a list that I knew that if something happened in a game that, those are the players that I would respond to. Being a tougher guy, or one of the guys that was expected to be, you didn't pick on and you didn't go after the star players in the other team.
Yeah.
You played them hard. However, when their teammates started to, lean on your guys, Pat LaFontaine, Dale Harchuk, Mark Messier, Joe Sakic, guys I played with in my career, when players on the other team started to lean on those guys, then you respond in kind. And then you're fired up. So this whole stage fighting thing, I recognize that, fights happen off the face-off. Well, with the new rules, with the instigator rule and the penalty that's associated with it, with games being so close, I wish that they abolish and get rid of the instigator rule and let the players police themselves. And I'll give you a quick story, very quick. In Buffalo, a game we were beating the New York Rangers. I'm running around. I'm going after Messier and Brian Leach, or I make whoever the players were, but I was playing aggressive, as were some of my other teammates. We got in the locker room in between the second and third period, and Pat LaFontaine and Dale Howardchuk stood up and literally ripped me a new backside, and basically said, "What are you doing? We've won this game. We've got it in hand, and because of your actions, we're getting pounded out there, and they're leaning on us. Settle down, just play the game, and let's be done with it." You go in the third period, there's nothing happens. Your own locker room policed itself because of that intimidation and fear, and that's gone from the game today. So the only way a player's making that impact is off a face-off, because when it's spontaneous and in the moment, too much potential to take an extra 2-minute penalty, which is too penal, and it hurts your team. And that player that's trying to do the right thing at the right time is actually now getting ridiculed only because of the rules.
Yeah.
You were talking about the locker room. Is there anybody that was a big prankster on one of your teams in the locker room?
Oh, I love pranks. Every day I drive to the rink. I probably should have spent more time thinking about breakouts and passes, but every day I went to the rink thinking, who am I going to get today? And what am I going to do? So I was certainly one of them, but I played with some guys that were really funny. One of my best stories that one of my teammates did, he stole one of the guys' set of teeth, Mike Sillinger. Stole Mike Sillinger's teeth. They went on a 10-day road trip, and on the 10th day, his teeth were mailed to him in an envelope to the hotel they were staying at. So he was actually on the road for 10 days without his teeth. That was a good prank. The other one was he went to a barber shop, and I did actually, and asked the barber to sweep up all the hair into a couple garbage bags over the next couple weeks. And I went to the barber shop and I picked up, I'm not kidding you, the bags were about 50 pounds. And then we Vaseline one of our teammates' cars from front to back, and we threw the hair on the car. Yeah, it took about 7 or 8 washes to get the hair off. It was harmless, but lots of fun.
So, you're always known.
And I recommend that joke to anybody. I think that's a good one.
I think we should do that to Director John's
I
car.
think we
What do you say?
should, yeah.
So, you're always known as a tough guy, but I got to tell you something. You spoiled it for me back in '93, because I was a Bruins fan, still am a Bruins fan. And you go down, pick up this pass when LaFontaine is tripped and down on his back. He throws it over to you. Pick it up like you had a vacuum cleaner on your stick. And then you go down, head up. There's Bork, one of the toughest, biggest defensemen around. Put it through his legs and make him look like a total idiot who's doing ballet. And then go in, fake a shot, and throw that puck past Annie Moog. Now, really, seriously, that took a ton of skill.
I told my coach then and there, John Mucker, I said, "Bud, I've been working on this every day in practice." And he laughed at me. And, he said, "Even a blind chipmunk finds the odd acorn, Brad. Let's be done with it and move forward." But, no, you know what? That moment was great. It's a moment in time that still lives. The National Hockey League, come playoff time, they replay that clip. Of course, it's right in the hip pocket of Rick Jeanneret's call. How great that was. Rick was introduced into the Hall of Fame when he was selected with that play, or his call playing. It's really cool. And I've been able to work with Rick the last few years. And you know what? I'm very, very fortunate and lucky to have that type of moment. My nickname today's, to this day, as my son's is May Day. And it's a moment in time, 1993. I think it was April 24th, one of the greatest nights of my life. And, it still lives. And anytime I'm having a bad moment, bad day, I'm not that pompous to play that call all the time. But somewhere, somehow, I come across that call. Somebody calls me May Day, and it always takes you back about that great moment. So, really cool.
So you said your son's called that as well. Did he play hockey? Does he play hockey?
He plays hockey, plays golf. He's a much better golfer. And he coins himself as Junior Mayday. So it's going to live in our family now going forward. Never once, for 21 years or whatever it was, 20 years at that time, had I ever been called Mayday. And every day since, somebody's called me that. So really cool. But the moment, when you're actually out there in front of 16,000 people, you're playing for your teammates, and of course the city's next and everything else, just being part of it, having that opportunity to score in overtime, to win not only a game but a series. It's a moment that I cherish, and it's extra special.
Yeah, and they were second overall in NHL, and then you did it. You finished them off. It was just amazing. And you're right about Jeanneret. I worked with him in radio, and every now and then I got to go over the Odd, which I absolutely loved. The Odd, I loved the old rinks. And I sat up there and he looked straight down, but I mean the noise in the rink, the people on top of the game. It was just, for me, so much better than what it is now.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I think we become more nostalgic as we get older, but you remember those venues. Like, I started my NHL career, and of course started in Buffalo at the Odd. At that same time, they had the Chicago Stadium, the Montreal Forum, the Boston Garden. There was many arenas that have been now since knocked down and rebuilt. When it's newer and better, and there's no question they're nicer and more luxurious, that history and that special, those feelings and all the memories that were created there, they kind of go by the wayside. So there's no doubt I'm a little nostalgic too, and I love the old buildings. I don't care how dirty the showers were in our locker room. How they plug up because there's probably a dead rat somewhere in the front at the old Odd. You know what? Those are all the things that you now, when you were there, you'd probably bitch about it, but now, you look back fondly and just really, really happy to have a moment or have that time there to spend.
Yeah, I think now the game, the way it is, you're set back, from the rink, and the boards are tight, and it all sounds so much softer than it did back then.
Do you remember the Odd? How it just, I say stunk.
Oh yeah.
When I say stunk, it smelled, which was of stale beer. Yeah. I love that smell of stale beer.
Yeah. No, I got to tell you, I loved it too. I love the smell of that rink. I love the smell of all the old rinks. So.
Yep. Toronto as
French fries. So you're bringing up some
guys. I've had a blast really talking to you guys. I wish you the absolute best going forward as well. And when I roll through Niagara Falls, we have to get together a coffee or a lunch or something, but maybe even go play baccarat at that nice casino you have there.
Yeah, there you go.
We're in for that. Well, we thank you so much for stopping by the Peet and Reet show. I mean, this guy should be a Hall of Famer. Are you a Hall of Famer yet?
I'm a Wall of Famer in my bathroom. I have one photo. My wife has pictures of.
Hey, one other thing. Hey, before you run, a good friend of ours, Mike Robitaille, who used to have the job that you were taking over. Are we going to see you back on the tube this year?
You know what's crazy? First, a public official announcement. The Buffalo Sabres didn't ask me to come back, so I'm actually when I say that they with their production crew, they're making changes, whatever that means. And I love Buffalo, love the whole experience. So I'm not talking negatively, but no, I'm not going back to Buffalo because they're not extending my contract. So life's going to change for me going forward, but always positive, always happy. And absolutely had huge shoes to fill for at least a few years of Mike Robitaille's. And if there is somebody doing it next, I hope they do a great job. But I love that whole area, Niagara Falls, Buffalo. The Buffalo Sabre fans are wonderful, fantastic. So had a great experience.
Yeah, and they love you.
We'll miss watching you.
Yeah, absolutely will. All right, when you're in town, make a promise you're going to be back on the Peet and Reet show.
Done, absolutely.
So you heard it.
I did. I heard it.
Can't wait till he gets here to have him live at Studio J1.
Be awesome. And maybe go do some cards or drinks, dinner.
I want to fight him. No.
Oh, I want to see that. Can we put that on the Peet and Reet show?
Too old. What a great guy. What a great guy and a great interview.
Fabulous.
And there's so much more to talk about. I mean, I want to talk to him about Barnaby.
Well, that can be the
Rob
next
Ray.
time.
Yeah, so we are definitely going to do that and have him in house. And then maybe we'll go out and practice some skills. Or something.
You could show us some stuff.
Yeah, excellent. Well, listen, God bless you all. Thanks for joining us here on the Peet and Reet show. And we will see you next time with somebody special guaranteed.
Of course.
I know.
Don't judge.
Did you notice? I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and I knew he was going to, I had no idea. I knew he was going to. Yeah, baby.